Hi, this is Barry Kroll from KTL Solutions. Today we're going to talk about the vendor portal document review process and how to submit that invoice for approval through the HABC RecLogic system. So I've logged in as a typical role in accounts payable. I've logged in and then to RecLogic and then navigated to the vendor portal document review section. In this, I've already filtered down to KTL's vendor ID so that it makes it simpler to view the output down below. So what I see is a document that's been submitted for an invoice for $1,250. I can click on the pencil to edit this. So if I want to see the purchase order, I can simply click on that, click on view, and it'll bring up the purchase order that was submitted along with this document and the original invoice. So I'm going to review both of those to make sure that they're correct as associated with the above information. If none of this is accurate or they didn't select either one of these options, you can hit the trash can. The trash can will delete it from this system and send out an automated email to the vendor saying that their invoice was rejected and the probable cause was either they didn't attach the purchase order or the invoice associated with that, and to resubmit with the applicable documentation. So looking at this, this vendor had an associated owner ID of myself, but more times than not, this is going to be Rosalind or Emmanuel. You'll want to choose yourself before processing so that it's associated with your user ID before submitting. There's no changes that I have on this document right now, so I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to click on the drop-down caret to expand or collapse to look at the lines associated with this document. So I currently have no purchase order account number associated with this. So I'm going to click on the pencil and I'm going to click on the, I can give it a general description if there was none provided. And then an account number, so the vendor doesn't have access to this. And since I submitted this with a, to make it simpler and not draw down on KTL's purchase orders, I submitted this just as an invoice. So for demo purposes, I'm going to choose just an account. May not be the accurate one. I'm going to save that. Change. Now I have a valid transaction, so when I got a check mark here, it means that everything is valid within this transaction and I can submit this transaction along the approval process. So the first step is to hit this process button, and based on how this was submitted, determines which window this goes into over here. So this document was successfully submitted. I no longer have it here. It's approved. It's processed out of this approval window. And the majority of the transactions that have been submitted will be coming into the PO invoice entry window. Since I didn't want to draw down on KTL invoices, this one is actually a vendor invoice. So I'm going to come into here, hit the magnifying glass, and this goes in chronological order. So most recent document is first, and then the historical ones are after. So I'm going to select the document, And the big thing here that I want to do is make sure that I have the right department ID, because that is going to determine who gets the approval request. So I'm going to hit the pencil up above icon to open up the editing, and then from there I would select who needs to edit that or approve this. So in this case, I'm going to leave it as admin, but if this was for Cherry Hill, I would select the Cherry Hill department, and once I've selected that, I can then click on the submit button. This will then submit it through the department's approval chain for invoices to get approved and accessed into GP. And so from here I would hit the submit. I'm not going to submit for this demo, but it concludes the vendor invoice approval and submission process for the vendor portal invoices that are submitted by your vendors. Thanks.